Hey, it's good to be here. This update video is going to take this emotional journey. I have good news, I have pretty good news, I have bad news, and then I have some good news. So that's where we're going. But let's start with some good news. Beyond the fact that ERI turned 11 last month. I'm really proud of that. We've been doing this for 11 years. It's been a long time. A lot has happened in the last 11 years. But here's some of what's been going on in the last 6 months. Good news. We are finally back to a consistent publishing schedule. For those of you that have been following us for years, you know that there have been times, there have been kind of these glorious times when we're able to kind of keep up a consistent publishing schedule. For a while, it was 2 podcasts a month and an article a month and like an update video, or maybe something else was happening monthly instead of update videos. But we kind of had a schedule, we had a big old spreadsheet, and we were able to keep that pretty consistent for a long time. And there have been a couple of times that we went on like short hiatuses. But then a couple of years ago, we're working on Equip for Life Academy, the really big curriculum that we thought was like a 1.5 year long project that turned into a 3-year project. And we had to stop doing some things temporarily in order to get that thing done. And now we're back for, I think, a couple of months now, maybe, or almost a couple of months. We have a consistent publishing schedule, which includes the fact that we have relaunched our podcast. The podcast is back. This is part of the really good news, is I've started recording podcasts with Rebecca and Emily. Never having recorded podcasts with the 3 of us before, and oh my goodness, I've never had a better time podcasting with people. I am so excited about what happens when Emily and Rebecca and I sit down and have a conversation. This was actually an audience idea. We had done an audience survey a while back, and there were some comments on the podcast at the time that were sort of in the vein of, and it wasn't like everyone, but there was certainly several. There was kind of like, we would love to hear more kind of conversations that are like internal to the staff at ERI. Hear what happens when you guys talk as opposed to Josh interviewing interesting people, which I was doing a lot of for a while, partly because there's a lot easier to put together. It's a lot easier to set up an interview and record that for a podcast than it is to, you know, get the team together, figure out a topic, and like that's just typically going to be more involved. I find it really easy to interview people and ask them good questions and, you know, come up with some interesting things to say. That I find easy, but sometimes for the other topics that we'll want to get to, there'll be some more research that's involved there. So we're kind of getting back to what a lot of people wanted the ERI podcast to be. Now, we're still going to have other people on. Next week, we're recording an episode with Emily, Rebecca, and I, and Monica Snyder from Secular Pro-Life, and it's going to be awesome. We'll still bring guests on, but we're recording we'll kind of make the typical episode, the standard format now with Emily, Rebecca, and I. And then, yeah, there might be some times where we have something else going on. There's certainly going to be some guest episodes that come out. We've got several episodes that I've recorded in here one-on-one with Rebecca, with Joshua Head on our team. In fact, I think that episode will be out by the time that this comes out. We have a couple of more episodes with Monica that I'd recorded in that, you know, marathon of episodes that Monica and I recorded a few years ago now. We've got a few more of those that we had done answering like lightning round questions from the audience, and we recently listened to it and it's still relevant. It's great. So we're going to be putting that out. A lot of people are really enjoying the conversations that I had with Monica. And so there's more to come, and there's more that we're planning on recording. I could record podcasts with Monica pretty much any day, and I think that would probably end up being interesting. So we're excited about having a consistent publishing schedule. We're publishing articles again too. We've got some really good articles that have come out lately. So that's the good news. The pretty good news is that Emily and I have been very busy all year working on promoting Equip for Life Academy, which I'm probably going to just call EFLA for short. That's what we call it internally, EFLA. So I'm just going to, for the sake of this video at least, I'm just going to say EFLA. Equip for Life Academy, the high school curriculum that took us a long time to finish, and now it's done. And so we have been able to pivot like I've been wanting to for a long time to, you know, I'm not producing it, I'm not editing it anymore, is done. You know, this iteration of it is done. Of course, we will, you know, add to it down the road, but we're not really thinking about that right now. Right now, it says we want to kind of get it out there, how many people can we train as quickly as possible? So focusing on school. So Emily and I are now chasing over 100 active leads. We've got a big old spreadsheet. I keep on mentioning spreadsheets. We use spreadsheets a lot. Spreadsheets are awesome. My dad was really into spreadsheets. My dad was like a king of spreadsheets, and one time showed me this thing that he was working on that had literally like the code for this one cell went like, it was like 5 or 6 lines because like it just kept on going with no break in the field. Anyway. Spreadsheets are great. We like spreadsheets. So Emily and I are working on chasing down a lot of leads, trying to promote Equip for Life Academy. We're focusing a lot on dioceses. And the reason for that is because if we can convince a diocese to get EFLA, then they may, and sometimes will, push it into all of the schools under their diocese. So we have a few dioceses that have purchased it. I don't know if I'm supposed to say who they are right now, so I'm not going to, but we have a few dioceses that have purchased it. We have like, last I checked, about a half dozen that were actively reviewing it, and things were looking up there, and then there's like another dozen that we're chasing but are not reviewing it. They're further, from that process. But we're excited about what can happen when we can get a school, especially a diocese, to get EFLA and to put it into their school. We've got a school in Oregon, there's outside of Portland, that really wanted to do it. And then a church in North Carolina offered a sponsorship. They wanted to sponsor a couple of schools doing it. And so one of the 2 schools that they'll be sponsoring is outside Portland. We've connected them, and now this school is going to be having all of their high school students do EFLA starting in the fall, thanks to a church making that possible. And so if that's something that you would like to do, if you would like to sponsor a school to be able to do this, whether that's a school that you're already connected with, like if you want to connect us with the school that maybe your student, your kid is in, and you want to make a sponsorship part of that to kind of take the financial hurdle out of the way, and then it's just kind of a matter of convincing the school to do it. That's absolutely something that we are doing and have already connected. So we can do that, but then we can also do this thing where, in this case, we found this school. Emily found this school that was needing it, and we were able to connect the need with the gift. And so if you're open to doing that and just kind of saying, we want to sponsor schools, find the schools, then we will be happy to do that too. But we're working homeschool. There was a homeschool group that I spoke with in Fresno a month or 2 ago that got really excited about it. So I think they're all going to be doing it. So a lot of my time, and certainly the bulk of Emily's time since January, has been promoting EFLA. Has been, it's like fundraising in a way, but like longer, is kind of more steps. It's like, fundraising on steroids. You might have to have a lot of meetings to get to the decision maker, and you might have more, what's the polite way to say this? Like delays, human-based delays, people not being very responsive or remembering to get back to us, or passing us along to various people. There's kind of common natural hurdles like that we're having to deal with and laughing about or crying about internally, whatever. But we're making really good progress. Maybe the thing that I'm proudest of is we've asked for a lot of people to endorse it. I've reached out to a lot of pro-life leaders to endorse it, and every single time that's happened, every single time a leader has actually reviewed it, they've been really, really impressed. It's been so much above and beyond their expectations for what it would be, even after hearing the way that I talk about it. It's really, really good. It is our best work yet. It is the best thing that we've put together. It was so hard. I have to watch clips of it a lot. I'm having a lot of donor meetings. So I'll talk about that next. And every time I watch it, it doesn't really get old for me. I'm like really happy with how it came out. And that's hard to say for a perfectionist. I'll probably just put quotes of endorsements on the screen so you can kind of get a sense of what people are saying, but it's really, really well reviewed, and it's just a matter of getting it out there and getting it out there as quickly as we can. And for me, there's an urgency. I wrote about this in an email that we sent out, but there's this, I read this article, I guess a couple of months ago now, about the high school graduation rate and what's happening with it, which I didn't know that anything was happening with it, but I guess this is something that's been coming for a long time. But the deal is, this year, in 2025, we just had, this is, we're in summer now. So the high school seniors who just graduated, that is the most high school seniors who will graduate in America for at least 15 years. Meaning next year there will be fewer than this year who will graduate high school, and then fewer, and then fewer, and then fewer, and then fewer for at least 15 years, and then it might pick back up. It sounds to me from the little bit of reading I've done that that's kind of a grayer, less certain. But like sociologists have seen this come for a long time. It has to do with, the replacement rate, like when people started having fewer kids, which was started around 1992. And that caused a domino effect that's been coming for 18 years, and here we are. All that to say, the chart for high school graduation is going like this, and then like maybe a little bit up at the end. So like I was really surprised to see that. I didn't know about the replacement rate thing. I'm reading it, and my initial reaction was like a sense of urgency rose up, because I'm so excited for us to be training high schoolers. I want to be training them before they get to college. I want every high school senior to at least be exposed to good pro-life arguments before they get to college. I would love for them to be learning it from EFLA, where they're also hearing responses to some of the most interesting pro-choice arguments. But there's also a lot of like, here's just how to have good dialogues with each other. Like, we need this so badly. We were writing a parent letter recently for one of the schools or maybe dioceses to send out to parents ahead of time to kind of let them know, hey, our school has adopted Equip for Life Academy. We're going to start doing this. Here's what that means, that kind of thing. And worked a lot on this letter and kind of the tone of it. And part of what I wanted it to include was kind of a, like, we know that this is a really divisive topic right now. We know that civil discourse is at an all-time low, or not, at least not an all-time low, an all-time low for the last 50 years, And that's why you should do this. That's not why you should avoid this curriculum. I understand why maybe that would be the impulse, but that's why this is going to be really helpful. This is part of the solution. This is part of trying to help people who are thinking really differently on at least one topic, probably more, to understand each other better and to learn how to listen to each other and find actual common ground and how to push a conversation forward in a way that is going to make everyone feel emotionally safe and comfortable and able to navigate a nuanced discussion and the kind of conversation where people actually change their minds. I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like right now that's more important than teaching really good arguments on any particular topic. I don't know whether I really think that, but I don't know. It depends on what day and what news article I read most recently, probably. But it's at least really important. There are things about our country that are broken that won't get fixed in this kind of status quo environment where we're all just fighting and doing like the whataboutism thing where it says like, yeah, well, your side did this other thing last time. Like this whole, all is nonsense. I want to help people to be friends with people who think differently from them, not just so that they can be trying to set them up to become a future notch on their belt, but so that they will learn how to love people who are different from them. And that's hard and important. What it means to get into someone's shoes. I heard this really, really great analogy recently. I told the person I was going to be quoting this for a long time. They were totally fine with it. So this is not mine. I wish it was. But this idea of, I was not planning on getting into this, but I'm just going to roll with it. But there's this idea of you can't really get into someone else's shoes unless you first take your own shoes off first. You need to be open to really understanding where they're coming from in a way that I don't think that we typically do, in a way that I don't think typically apologists teach people to do, at least not sufficiently. It's not, at least not in a way that is resulting in an outcome where people are actually understanding each other. Imagine what would happen if we could train all the high schoolers, or at least expose them to great pro-life arguments, and also arguments for having better dialogues with people who are different from them. Like, imagine if that happened before they got to college. That's what I want. I want pro-life students to be able to rock it when they get to college. Like, I want high school to be their boot camp. I want them to step foot on a college campus on day one as a freshman, ready to take ownership of the pro-life club, ready to like, man, here's some ways that we can train people to dialogue. Let's go do dialogue-oriented outreaches if we aren't already. Let's change some minds. So the pretty good news is that Emily and I have spent a lot of our time this year communicating with over 100 dioceses and churches and schools and individuals who might have connections about the good news of EFLA. And as my friend Greg Austin once told me, relationships move at the speed of trust. And that trust can take a while to build. So we are spending a lot of our time working on that, and we're seeing some success. And I'll be communicating more about those successes in the future. Here's the bad news. As I also said in an email recently, we've been having a really bad, it's not just fundraising season, it's over a year. We've had 5 bad quarters in a row, ending with Q1. So our Q1 this year, meaning the first 3 months, if you compare the first January through March, our contributions income this year versus, that same 3 months all the previous years, our Q1 this year was the worst one we've had since 2019. Like, that's bad. It's like, how bad is that? It was, compared to last year's Q1, it was about a third. It was just over a third of how much came in last year's Q1. So it was a significant drop. We had about 2/3 less funding in Q1 this year than we did last year. That's significant. That'll affect your budget. And that was like the 5th bad quarter in a row. And so at that point, our board needed to take that really seriously and start making changes, based on that. The way that I'm spending my time is different than it would be if fundraising was going better. We're in a bit of a fundraising crisis at this point. I'm really proud of the fact that we have never sent, one of those dire emails, the doors are shutting down, we're not going to be able to do payroll if we don't bring in a lot of money, this month, like that kind of thing. I never want to send one of those emails. But it's been bad for a long time. There's at least 2 very different reasons for that. There's probably a lot more, but there's at least 2 big reasons for how bad fundraising has been. One of those relates to, me/EFLA/ our board. Last year, when things were, taking so long and we really needed to get EFLA finished, we all sort of agreed that we were going to make a lot of 2024 an investment year. We were going to invest a lot of my time, pretty much almost all my time, into getting that thing done until it was done, because there was a lot of it that only I could get done. I did delegate a lot of it. Emily and Andrew and Joshua were all really involved in helping get EFLA done, but there was just some of it, the more advanced stuff and a lot of like the final steps, that only I could do. And it just took a lot of time. This has resulted in a lot of burnout because I was working like 16-hour days a lot last year. I was working most weekends, a lot of evenings, several holidays. I'm still affected. I'm still affected by last year. I still have a lot to learn about burnout, but one of the kind of more terrifying things that I've learned is that burnout doesn't resolve itself quickly. You don't heal from burnout quickly. Some people never heal from burnout, but it's gonna take a while. I had to sacrifice a lot last year to make this thing possible, and as a result, I wasn't in your inboxes very much with updates or asking for funding. I wasn't setting up meetings. I wasn't, updating you on what's going on and asking for funds. I took my foot off the gas on fundraising and podcasting and a lot of other things, and we got it done. There's a cause and effect thing that happens there. So part of the domino effect there is some people will only give if they're asked or if they're, maybe getting frequent enough emails. And so that's not been happening. So that's part of it. Part of it is not at all related to us and is related to like the time that we're in. Is I think the economy has really affected fundraising. From what I hear, all the pro-life groups are struggling with fundraising. And some of them have been since last summer. I think probably some of last year was the election, like distraction from the election. I think this year there's some people that would be giving more if it weren't for the economy. I think there's some people that are worried about their income, or at least their the long-term stability of their income at a level that they weren't expecting to in July of 2025. It's a really unfortunate time to be needing to raise a lot more funding, but we need to, because we've been spending $6,000 to $10,000 more a month on average than we're bringing in. It's not sustainable. This has to change. And until it does, I will be spending most of my time just fundraising. We are not doing discretionary purchases anymore. There are things that I would be doing or things that I would have done to make things easier or more efficient that are not happening because we need to get funds raised. We need to be able to pay our bills. So thank you to those of you who have been responsive as I've been reaching out to, dozens and dozens and dozens of you have heard from me in the last 6 months. I've had so many meetings. I have so many more to have, and kind of catching up with people and letting them know what's going on at ERI. So thank you for that. Thank you for caring. A lot of you who I've had meetings with really shown a lot of concern for ERI, for me personally, and wanting us to succeed. And I just don't have another way to say it besides we need people to give more. We need more funding. Technically, that could be $6,000 to $10,000 a month in new giving from completely new donors. That's the big goal at this point. That's what we need to become sustainable, is we need basically $10,000 a month in new giving. So we have a long ways to go, and that is what I will be working on until we get there. So, again, to catch you up, the good news is our production schedule is back on track. We are back to what we've internally been calling our new normal. We are back to our new normal and producing and editing podcasts and articles, and I'm making update videos. I will be doing this at least more often now. The pretty good news is that Emily and I are very, very busy communicating with everybody that we can and having as many meetings as we can about Equip for Life Academy, and that's going pretty well, and everyone that reviews it loves it and thinks it's awesome, but it's not, in as many schools as we would like it to, because the process is slower than I would like it to be. And then bad news is that our funding is way down, and we had the worst first quarter since 2019 and had 5 bad quarters in a row, and that is having an effect on everything here. The good news that I will end with is that I just got our quarter 2 numbers. We hadn't done this quarter comparison thing before this year, but I reached out to our bookkeeper and said, that quarter 1 comparison thing was really helpful for me. Let's just do that from now on at the end of each quarter. And so just the other day, I got on our quarter 2 numbers, and I'm happy to announce, thanks to some of you who have already been responsive, we had a good second quarter. We finally had a good quarter. It was better than last year. It was actually almost the best second quarter we've ever had. Now, we don't typically have great second quarters because we haven't typically been really in fundraising mode during this time of year. We were $360 away from this technically being the best quarter 2 in ERI history. And so things are starting to look up. It's kind of like what the high school replacement rate is supposed to eventually be. It's kind of like this. I think things are starting to look up. Not dramatically enough for it to like massively change what my work life is going to be like anytime soon, or kind of our priorities or how we're proportioning our time to various possible things. I really need to be communicating with as many people as I can in a one-on-one kind of setting and communicating our needs and asking people to help. So if you're watching this and you haven't heard from me yet, if we have your email address, you'll probably be hearing from me eventually. We really need to bring in 10K in new monthly giving in order for things to kind of be different, for things to be sustainable. And so I'm directly asking, about as hard as I ever have been, please give. We're doing great. We are doing such great things. I love the podcast we're putting out. Equip for Life Academy is so good. And we're struggling to pay the bills. So if you've never given before, I'm asking you now to seriously consider giving. If you have been helped by our work in the last 11 years, if you are a more persuasive and, more important, loving pro-life advocate now as a result of the really hard work that we've been doing here for these last 11 years, would you help us? We want to take this to the next level. I kind of been thinking in my head of like the first 10 years as being like ERI 1.0, and I'm wanting us to get to 2.0, to like a second phase where we can be doing some of the things that some of the bigger groups are able to do. And just there are just a lot of things that we would like to do that are just like, we can't even consider. They're just not in the realm of possibility. They are not ideas I'm going to bring to our next board meeting, because they will be pie in the sky as long as things are the way that they are. If you are one of our current donors, but perhaps you haven't increased in a long time, that is a story for a lot of our donors. We have a lot of awesome small monthly donors, people who are giving at the $10, $25, maybe $50 a month level, a lot of those. And I like that. I wanted that. I actually worked really hard early in ERI to cultivate a lot of small monthly giving, because I didn't want to be super dependent on just 3 big donors or something like that, because that can go really badly really quickly. And so, there was a time where our monthly income matched our monthly expenses. We had fewer staff at that time. We were doing fewer things. So that's not, how things have been for a long time now. But that's where I would like things to be. But if you are one of those donors, I can tell you by looking at our donation data, there are a lot of people who have been giving at the same monthly level for 5, 10 years. Maybe because I've never asked them to consider increasing that. And maybe sometimes they're increasing their giving to other groups, but they haven't been hearing from me. And so if that's you and you have the ability to increase your giving, I understand, if you just lost your job, I'm not talking to you right now. We'll be praying for you, kind of a thing. But if that's not you, if things are going okay, we could use your help, because they're not really going okay here. I don't want you to give because we're having a fundraising problem. I want you to give because we are the only pro-life group in the position of being able to really quickly train thousands, tens upon thousands of high school students in a year, kind of a thing. Just as quickly as we can get it into schools, we can be training so many students. We have such amazing opportunities that are really unique, but we've spent years getting to this place, and we need help. There is going to be no way to get to the next level without more staff and more resources, which is going to take more funding. And I'll finally just say, if you have a connection to a school or a diocese or a homeschool group that you think would potentially be excited by this, and you'd be willing to connect me with them, please email me. I will put my personal email address in the description. Email me. I would love to hear from you. I would love to get connected with anyone that you know. That's the way that a lot of this is happening, is connections to groups from someone being like, oh man, this is awesome. You have to check this out. I would love it if you were doing this. And that enthusiasm and personal connection point is often kind of what it will take to get a stranger working at a school who's never heard of us to be like, okay, I will take a look at this. I will take this, moderately seriously. If you would be willing to do that, there are so many people who just watch these update videos. I can't believe that there are hundreds of you that watch these kind of long update videos when I make them. That really means a lot. But there are a lot of people watching literally this update video who have connections that you might be able to make happen. I can send you an email with like an intro paragraph and like a couple of helpful links. Like, we have all that stuff put together. Reach out to me first if you want. Like, be like, hey, I've got a connection. What should I send? I'll meet with you first. But if you would be willing to help connect us with any contacts that you might have that might be able to plug this in, the gatekeepers who are in between us being able to train the students that are in your sphere of influence, we would love to connect with them, and it would mean a lot if you would be willing to help us with that. So that is one other action step. There's 2 action steps here. Please give. Also, if you have a connection, shoot me an email and let me know, and we'll talk. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for watching. Thanks for caring about us. And hopefully I'll have better news the next time that I go to make one of these. Thanks.